Rotten Tomatoes and Ricky Gervais, his special, and the growing divide that seems to never close between critics and what people actually seem to want to talk about. So it says, Rotten Tomatoes critics trash Ricky Gervais' Netflix special as audiences rave about it. If you need more evidence that we are in a vicious culture war, look no further than the latest Rotten Tomatoes score for Ricky Gervais' latest stand-up comedy special, Supernature.
The real battleground.
Yes.
Rotten Tomatoes scores.
From the all of 2 minutes I viewed of this special, it wasn't exactly like laugh out loud funny though.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I watched
it. Was fine. Like it wasn't that interesting.
I watched it. It's very tame. Like the funny thing
hits
is,
punches he knows are gonna hit. Like that's it.
And he like the stuff they're complaining about to get this type of like media attention over something so like it's like 2 minutes of
I think it's because people were hyped up for him to have a special that was like super inflammatory,
really
and then
think
it
that was
didn't
gonna
happen.
I feel like he's always
People who are like extremely disconnected from reality.
He spent just as much. He made more jokes about.
Is he controversial? Because I feel like he's not.
I mean, certain people think he's controversial.
Oh, so he's not.
I don't.
I don't know if
he's just like media approved controversial.
Yes, exactly.
He's like vanilla ice cream with some sprinkles for surprise.
So like to me, I did not laugh at any of the jokes about transgenderism. I thought they were extremely like.
I mean, when I read them, I didn't hear them out loud, so I don't know.
The jokes about
also he didn't do them first. Like Dave Chappelle went first, and then you were like, seems like you've survived this storm. I'll also venture out.
Right? Like it's so cowardly.
He had done the like I said, his 2020 Oscar, or was it the Golden Globes? That was actually interesting because he said it to the faces of the people that he was talking about. That like it works better in the context of like we're gonna reference another article here about how some members of the trans community have supported what he's done, and they say like he works best when he's speaking truth to power. The reason that Golden Globes thing, I know, right? The reason that Golden Globe thing works is because he makes fun of Apple having sweatshops to the head of Apple being in the crowd. This, it's just like like the jokes, to be honest, the jokes are like, I didn't hear any like mothers of like children who have died crying about him making jokes about dead children, which he absolutely does in that special. Like it's exactly
no,
what
I heard it. I mean, like he talked about his cats, and I thought that was kind of funny. And then he makes jokes about how he's actually very wealthy, and like that's kind of funny.
Well, yes, he
like
talked about
anything that was trying to like touch on politics. I was like, okay, fine. Like anyone could make this joke. It's not super interesting that it's you, and it's not a super interesting joke anyways.
So it says what has angered progressive critics, that's almost all of them, judging by the numbers here. Progressive critics about the Gervais comedy bit is that the opening act, Gervais dives into the material about the trans community, mocking pronouns and gender identity.
Wow, groundbreaking.
I know, groundbreaking.
No comedian has ever done that before.
Well, the thing is, though, like, I think that he paves the way for, like, maybe funnier and less known comedians who have more to lose if they doing so, and you might be more inherently willing to find it funny when somebody isn't going to be okay if they actually get in trouble for saying this stuff. He does it, nobody cares because it's not going to affect his career. His career will be fine after
also,
this.
he has security, so take bigger risks.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
That's actually like not a big risk. Like I just said, Chappelle did it. Like other comedians who are low levels can make these kind of jokes. Like he didn't really invent the wheel here. He just sort of jumped on the bandwagon.
Yep.
And he's not spicy enough for...
He's Piers Morgan uncensored.
I mix them up all the time, Piers Morgan and Ricky Gervais.
They're just British guys who pretend to be subversive.
Right, but they're not super, right?
They're not.
They're just hanging out.
So it says the 2-minute comedy routine.
I want a Nigel Farage comedy special.
Oh, that would actually be good.
That would be amazing.
The 2-minute comedy routine was enough to cause critics to slam the special with negative reviews across the board. Emily Labert of Jezebel, well, that's the problem. It's a Jezebel review.
Yeah.
Called Gervais a little twat. Well, that's not very nice.
British people are so funny. Like their insults just are not, I can't take them seriously.
They love the C word. They love that word.
You know what's weird about this whole thing? This whole article? It's like guy does something not that surprising and
people surprised.
People react the way we all would have expected them to. Like, this is an article about nothing.
So it says Chappelle. Well, I think it's interesting.
You might as well have told me the sun rose today. Like, I know. I got up.
But the reason I decided to cover it is because I watched the special and found it so tame that it boggles my mind that they care that much.
Also, do you feel like they had their critic their summaries written before? They're like,
yes, I do.
Bigot, mean, insensitive, and then they're like, oh, he mentioned that, so we'll throw that noun in here where we need one. Like, it's like they had like a Mad Libs version of the review.
That's
and then
basically
they're
what
like,
it is.
I'm just annoyed that certain people are saying that people like Ricky Gervais, Piers Morgan, Dave Chappelle, whoever else are revitalizing comedy or something. They're like bringing it back and pushing the boundaries and subverting your expectations, etc.
In the most corporate approved way possible.
Yeah, when they're doing exactly the opposite and something that doesn't actually shock anyone. I mean, maybe we are just like,
I think
we would be desensitized
Yeah.
to talking about topics like that just based on like where we work, but
I think that's what it is.
is it just that the rest of society finds this, like, their sensibilities are so
yeah.
like unfrazzled that this is enough to
Yeah.
like have them belly laughing? It's really not anything special.
I don't even
it's
think it's
weird
that
too
they,
because it looked. Sorry, I cut you off.
I don't even think it's that they're belly laughing. I think they're just surprised anybody's willing to broach the subject at all.
But the point of it isn't to be surprised; it's to laugh. That's why I'm saying.
Well,
like,
Most
it's
of these people are
falling
fundamentally
flat.
incapable of laughter.
Yeah,
anyways.
I just didn't feel like there was any like nuanced wordplay. There was no like thematic interesting thing other than like, I'm gonna say things that are spicy, but other people have survived.
The
and there was
thing
nothing
about-
like relatable
It
about
also
it.
like looked like both like any other stand-up show and also like a TED talk. So like
the black background.
yeah, and
you
his
think?
black T-shirt, he's moving around and
He's
like
got the
microphone. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Synergy.
Yeah,
Synergy.
might as
We're
well
back to
been-
synergy.
He might as well have been presenting the new iPhone while also like making fun of pronouns. At least that would have
Yeah.
been interesting. Like
Yeah.
He,
I don't know. I wish there was more. I pitched one time on the show that he start his own award show and come up with his own categories and stuff, and it could be like comedic, but he didn't do that. He did this instead, which is like nothing. He just basically made you like the most boring pretending to be subversive
And then like
clickbait.
the event that critics and the audience are divided on their opinion about the special.
It's like
is
2 minutes.
So the whole special.
Those jokes don't last that long.
It's like
I
2
know
minutes
that,
of
but I'm
stuff.
saying like critics and the audience are divided on the whole special, whether they liked it. And yeah, like I would have bet my life on that before any reviews came out.
Exactly
And then-
what you thought was going to happen happened.
Yeah.
that's my
you for the
problem.
And then
report.
I just earlier today, like coincidentally, saw this comparison of like what was the Rotten Tomatoes score for what was that movie Taken?
The first Taken with Liam Neeson.
Yeah, compared
kidding
to
me?
the
Are
Rotten
there
Tomatoes score for Cuties.
Yeah.
And then the audience scores.
Yeah.
Yep.
It completely lopsided.
Yep.
We know this.
Was Rotten Tomatoes ever like reliable? I felt
No.
like it was for a minute.
No,
No.
not in recent years. But so it says
But
14%.
when it first started, was it like ever like people were like, okay, fair?
Before it got politicized, there was a point in time
There
where
was
it
a
did become
time, right?
politicized. Because like a lot of movies started putting like certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes on their promotional material, so that became like a badge of honor. And then they started messing with your ability to give reviews. You had to be a specific type of reviewer to review certain things.
Oh.
Review brigading's a thing. It's just funny because it's 14. It's not a 14%. It's not a 14% special in the context of critics, but it's not a 92% special either. So it's like, this just is further evidence of how divided everyone's. The people who love it just because it's covering something that the critics hate, and the critics hate it just because it's covering something that
They hate.
audiences like. So
Ah.
so the critics hate it because they know regular audiences will like it, and the audience likes it because they know that the critics will hate it, which means that it has nothing to do with the special anyways. It has everything to do
Which
with the culture.
ultimately does like confirm that comedy's dead.
Very dead. So it says, and then I just want to point out.
what are you
so
talking
there's-
about? This was a great TED talk.
So they talk about this special that he had support from the trans community. It says Gervais has publicly expressed himself as pro-trans in the past and recently said that he has a problem with trans activist ideology. That's fair. That's a very thing to. You can critique the activist wing of that ideology, but not necessarily criticize transgenderism in general. So it says journalist and transgender person Debbie Hayton wrote, Gervais may be privileged, but he uses his position to speak truth to power. Anna Claire will love that. Trans activist ideology has run unchecked for too long, and it's time to call it to account. Gervais thanked Hayton for this and replied with a heart emoji. You gave her all of a heart emoji. Gervais was called a comedic legend by another Twitter user. Described themselves as a trans guy. He got a thumbs up from Gervais, so he's doing what he has to do to like show any support he's getting from members of that community, and rightfully so. He's going to have to do so. Blair White also threw her weight behind it. Says Gervais has been supportive of me, a trans woman, for years. He's not transphobic. He's bullshit phobic. That is clever. I should hashtag that. While these people and others have expressed their support for Gervais, many more have discussed how damaging they found the jokes within Supernature. They're so bland. What is damaging about them? I'm actually asking that question. What is damaging about them?
I don't know.
What?
We don't have an answer for you because we are sane.
Does
people.
anybody watching right now know how it's actually damaging them?
Anyone in the live chat got an idea?
Like they always give a generic term of harm, right? Like, but what does that actually mean in actual context?
Well, you hurt my feelings. It othered me. That was the word I learned today.
Othered?
Yes. A transgender athlete saying that they shouldn't compete with biologically female athletes, or like being like, well, you can compete, but we're not going to record your time because you have an unfair advantage, is othering to trans people.
What I found is like so much of like, we're going to talk about, there's a very specific example in the Cary Fukunaga story where there's this like, there's this language that gets used where it doesn't feel like they're real people. It feels like they're reading from a weird script because they're not using language that people use when they're talking in the real world.
Yeah, I feel like it's like they're like, I'm going to use enough search terms so when somebody quotes me, I'll appear higher on Google.
Yes. All right. Let's we got a super chat from Hava Owen there, I believe.
Let's see. I agree. Those jokes are kind of hack. Most stand-up is dead. You can see the setup and punchline a mile away.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've watched any, actually.
When we were at, when we went to, when Ryan Long performed here, right? And he did his special, like he did his stand-up. He like you could first of all, he's like, if I was to think of somebody who's actually like doing good for comedy right now, Ryan Long is doing fantastic, is taking great strides.
I feel like
and Danny, yeah, so they're both doing great work. But he's telling these jokes, and you can tell he's actually hitting like strike points at people, because you could hear like the tone of the room laugh, but kind of pull back. And he's like, we're almost through the gay jokes. We're gonna get into these jokes. Like he's very clearly kidding, but he's making you feel it as he does the special, and he held everyone to account. He joked about everyone in these specials.
And I wonder in some ways too if it's like the fact that these are big corporate specials on Netflix, like when you are going to like a stand-up comedy club, like the comedian may have a set, but they are like reacting to the audience. They are like learning to feel the room. Like some jokes that may hit one night don't hit the next, right? Yep. Whereas like this is filmed, it's perfectly lit, it's a beautiful TED Talk that Netflix produces, and it's like, well, I'm not gonna have you have the live audience there, but like your audience is actually people who will see it months and months later. Also, so he's just guessing at what's probably going to hit right.
Also, you don't it's the way it's framed is you can't see the audience at all. You can only see him. So I don't know how much of that laughter could have been piped in. But for all we know. Like,
and that wasn't always true with comedy specials.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like
normally, he could have performed to an empty room and been like, "Oh, sorry guys, it was COVID. Like we had to be safe." Normally,
in a comedy special, they actually make a point to focus on audience members when something particularly funny gets said. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's interesting that for something like this, I don't know where you go from here with comedy specials, because I don't know if I really find most humor is dead. Effectively to me, like very little. He made one joke about like that. The only one that I thought was particularly shocking, and it's funny that it's not getting more play, is he made a joke about like masturbating to a picture of baby Hitler.
Yep.
That was
he
like
did?
Yeah. That was like, to me that is way more grotesque and effed up and bizarre than any of the other stuff he said, but nobody's talking about that.
They already had their ammunition about the trans jokes loaded before it was out, so that's why people are.
That's what I mean. I feel like it was like a critic Mad Libs where they're like, I bet there's gonna be a trans joke, so we're gonna write it out and then we're just gonna pop some specific quotes in. They only got like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into this hour-long special, and they're like, oh, good, I'll just go have a Saturday now. Like it just it's almost laziness. There's no nuance in the take. Like, if this is your honestly held opinion, like, I guess that makes sense that you'd put this out. But like, for the most part, it just seems like you wanted to say the thing that you thought everyone else would refer back to first.
Yeah. I do want to point out that it does provide an interesting way of looking at Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you can discount, like if you see something
You
that's...
should search for things that they don't like and be like, I'm going to see that
No,
movie.
the opposite. What you should be doing is looking for things where there's agreement. That's where you're going to find the interesting material. If you see stuff that the audience likes entirely, depending on what your sensibilities are, you're going to know whether you like that or not. If you see something that the critics like entirely, you're going to know, based on your sensibilities, whether you're going to like that or not. If you see something that gets relatively high or relatively low from both of them, that's where you're going to find the interesting stuff to watch. You should almost be able to like cycle through and search by like, do they actually agree on any of this crap? And then find interesting stuff to watch that way, because you'll find less bias in that stuff, I think. So
Yeah.
maybe
If anyone's listening and has a strategy for how to use Rotten Tomatoes, I'd love to hear what the game plan is, because like I don't use it, but I do like the idea of seeing things that are like super turbulently balanced, right? Like if Rotten Tomatoes loves something, the audience hates
I
it.
think this is gonna. It's like being a spokesperson for the ACLU is gonna be like the new, like being like rated highly on Rotten Tomatoes is the new like being a spokesperson of abuse for
basically
ACLU.
Then the ACLU was like, Amber Heard, where's our money?
Right.
There was a super chat in there.
Yes, Waffles Sensei says it's damaging to them. He's answering your question because gender dysphoria is psychological torture on the mind, and when you make jokes like Ricky does, you make them see reality.
That's that's probably
harsh, but
the thing is,
true.
like Ricky Gervais making jokes about trans people, him making them or not making them doesn't cure anyone of any psychological issues they're having, right? Like if you're in psychological distress, it's actually not relevant if you know every comedian in the world makes this joke. Like that's something internal you are struggling with, and like don't consume content that you think will make whatever your issues are worse.
They make jokes about all sorts of things like mass tragedies and mental illness, and
well, just like we said, if you're an abuse survivor, like maybe don't watch the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. Like maybe that's not good for you, and that's fine. You don't have to consume
just
everything.
No concept of like viewer discretion advised.
Yeah, or like self-regulating.
That's a thing.
Being like, I can't consume this, so I will stop.
Therefore, everybody else should not be able to consume it as well. So, thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.